Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to start with congratulating yourself and Madam Deputy Speaker on your new roles. And it just shows the confidence of the House in the ability for you two to do that job. Next, I'd like to congratulate all the new and returning MLAs. For those of you that have never seen me speak before, I don't use speaking notes very often, but I got a lot of thank yous to go through, so I don't want to miss anybody. So I want to congratulate all the new and returning MLAs to our legislature. Even though some of us have differing political views, and just a little bit, we probably came here for the right reasons, which for me was to make this a better place. Hear, hear. For my family, my mom and dad, my kids, and my grandkids, which in turn makes our province a better place for all of us. Okay, now we get into this long list of thank yous. Hear, hear. So I want to start with my family. My son Dylan, he helped me throughout the campaign. And I even got my grandkids out one at a time, door knocking. I had Jordison, Jackson, and Attica. They were all out there. Attica, being only 3.5 years old, she tired out after a couple of blocks. My son Ryan, he come out for the push over the top for the end of the campaign. And he even brought his beautiful daughter, my newest granddaughter, Charlie, and his much better half, his beautiful wife, Macy. My oldest, who now lives on the island, that I heard some of my colleagues talk about, and it gives me a chance to go visit him. Hopefully I can get out there sometime next year. He constantly texted me and called me and gave me moral support from out there. Then there's a real special guy that comes down. He's been down every election that I've run. It's my brother from another mother. His name's Quinn Morkey. He's from Edmonton. He's been there since day one. And unfortunately, he was only able to come the last 5 days as well, because the COVID in Edmonton was so bad, he had to self-isolate for 2 weeks before he got down. And I want to also thank his bride, Vanessa, for letting him come down. This first time she didn't come down without him. And, you know, she's got 2 kids to take care of, her daughter and their brand new son. Then there is my fantastic team and all the volunteers who helped door knock, and all those other little details that we all had in our campaign. And we know it takes a team to win in that campaign. It's not us always, it's our team, and it's the leadership that our leader presents for us. So in no particular order, my campaign manager was David Cooper. I had Dax Cook come out, Robin Leakin, Aaron, Lee Goose, his much better looking, much taller, and probably younger sister, Erin Bradish. Lee's wife, Taryn, was out helping. We had Catherine, Darlene, Luke, David Chow, the member from Moose Jaw North, Jackie, Trina and her daughter, Teresa, Fern Paulus, Kathy and Wes Schumack, Brett and Brenda Schultz. And I had a former colleague show up, Warren Steinley, our new MP, one of our new MPs here in Regina, who's a former colleague of us. And his crew he brought out of Scott Pettigrew, Kaylee Schmidt, and Heather Coons. Then we had John Solstad and his team, his SCAT team, that were out there numerous times, and that helped knock thousands of doors. Get back on order here. Oh yeah. Then there's Simone, who was not only my business manager, but she also recruited her family and friends. So amongst those was Nigel, Kathy, who's her mom, Kelly, who's her friend, and because she's got a 2-year-old at home, and she was putting in 10 and 12-hour days, I also want to thank her in-laws, Swami and his wife, for taking care of their son when Nigel was out helping and she was out helping. Then there's my board. Ryan Dion, who's been my president, and I used to work with him at SaskTel. He's been my president almost as long as I've been nominated member, so since back in 2011, early 2012, or no, that'd be 2010, yeah. And he's a really good friend. And he tells me as long as I'm running, he'll stay my president. So I also want to throw out a thanks to his wife Amanda for letting him come while she watches the twins at home. Then Myrna, my treasurer, and her husband Greg. And Greg is, Greg's almost like a second dad. And he is so full of political advice. I keep telling him he should have ran for mayor or run for my seat, but he doesn't like politicians. So then I want to talk about Sherry Young. Sherry and I have been friends for years, and her husband Tex Young is one of our serving members in the Canadian Armed Forces. She's been my VP for quite a while, and he got posted down to, well, I won't say, he got posted down into the States someplace, and they had to leave the day before the polls opened. And because of the way the rules are, they couldn't vote because the early polls weren't open, and they couldn't get mailed the what are those called when they mail out ballots? Mail-out ballots, yes. Couldn't get the mail-out ballot sent out to them because they weren't physically in their new address. But she's like sister. Then my secretaries on my board, I've had a few. There was Trina, Marge, and now it's actually Lee Goose. So thanks, Lee. Very good guy. And then I go on to my mom and dad. And I've spoken of this before. I remember being young, and both mom and dad, with at least 2 jobs, because they both worked in the oil field, and we know who was in government back then. Well, probably those guys. And their plan was, I believe, the term they used was leave it in the ground. Then, probably some of the most important people I need to thank is the people of Moose Jaw Waccamaw. The people of Moose Jaw Waccamaw came out in droves, voted for me, and increased my plurality again by the 3rd term, in my 3rd term. So obviously, the people I work with in my office, my CA Simone, who does a fantastic job, and my former CA Trina, who did a fantastic job. over the last 4 years or 6 years, however long it was, make us all look good when we're here at the legislature. So I want to thank them for the fantastic job that they do. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone. Oh, just a minute. I have. Certainly least, and for sure last, the Leader of the Opposition. I want to thank him. Because every time he came out and helped Melissa Patterson, who did a fantastic job running a campaign. She was fantastic. I've never seen any NDP work as hard as she did, ever. But I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition, because every time he come out to what was a former NDP stronghold, I had people phoning the office and contacting me on Facebook asking how we keep this guy out of power and what do we got to do. So it's like, get out and vote. You know who you got to vote for. And we had one of the largest voter turnouts in a long time. I think that's why I increased my votes by another 200 or 300. So thank you to the Leader of the Opposition. And then I would be remiss if I didn't thank our leader. Under the leadership of our Premier, guiding us through this unprecedented, troubling times. It is absolutely amazing that we are doing as good as we are. We talk about the unemployment, we talk about or the employment, we talk about how our exports are doing okay, and this is all in the time of a worldwide pandemic, and you take it, the leadership of the Premier and the absolute fantastic job that he's done taking care of us as a province. Is that it for my thank yous? That's not very long. That's only about 15 minutes. I usually do about 20 minutes. Well, hopefully I haven't missed anybody. And so now we'll get on to my reply for the speech from the throne. So I most of the time try and be really nice to the opposition because they need all the help they can get. Now, I've listened to some of their speeches. I've suffered through them. And I'm wondering if they either didn't read the speech from the throne or they just didn't listen to it. I'm not sure which, because there is definitely a contrast to the doom and gloom. You would think we were walking out into a wasteland when we go outside. The doom and gloom coming from that side, and the positivity coming over here. We as a province are moving ahead. Yes, this is a terrible time. We're all in here, we gotta wear masks, we gotta physically distance, we've got screens on in front of us, so when we're talking passionately, we don't spray the people in front of us. But think about it. If we don't give the people of Saskatchewan hope, who's going to? Because it certainly isn't you folks over there. I don't even think you know what hope means. Hope beats fear every time. One of the other things I'm astounded by what I would say would be almost arrogance coming from that side. If I had lost by over 30% of the vote and got, the same I started with, I probably wouldn't be telling the people of Saskatchewan they voted wrong like the member from Athabasca did the other evening. One thing I've learned with now being a politician is that the voter is never wrong. The voter's always right. Even with you folks that got elected over there, your voters were right. But if you take a look around, I think you would realize that we actually listen to the people of the province. We actually listen to our unions. We actually listen to our business owners. We actually listen to people all the time. That's our job. That's what we do. And obviously, by the numbers in the House, we might do it a little bit better than you guys. So, our commitments. So we've talked about our commitments. And the Saskatchewan Party government has always done one thing. They've made a promise, they've kept a promise. And I don't know if you guys are keeping track of how many we've kept so far. I think we've done 3 and we're gonna be up to the 4th. So we've reduced the power bills by 10%. And that's one thing you guys never did. Even when I worked at Power, like you guys did a horrible job of funding Sask Power. Like when you talk about taking 200% of what they take home and then creating a savings account, so if you rob Peter and put it over there so they're broke, how does that make that a savings account? I've never figured that one out. Also, I'll talk about, because at that point I was working at SaskTel, and you guys would strip our budget every year. So,
just want to remind the member to speak to and through the chair.
Thank goodness.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I was working at SaskTel, the NDP stripped the budget every year. We couldn't maintain our copper. There's a reason, like we had to go to fiber because the copper was rotting away because they wouldn't let us fix it. So, you know, they're supposed to be the saviors of the crown, but when you take the entire profit times 2 and put it in the savings account and your crowns are falling apart, your highways are falling apart, everything's falling apart, your schools are falling apart, and they put 0 money into infrastructure, how the heck is that being a good job for the people of Saskatchewan? You know, they used to stand back when I worked at the Crown and they'd pat themselves on the back that they created the crowns. Well, that was actually the CCF. So that wasn't, you know, it's kind of like saying your grandpa did it. So their grandpa did it. The Sask Party makes promise, keeps promise. I remember the last time the NDP won an election, and it was their finance minister, because as soon as they got in, they upped the PST again, as soon as they got in. And when they asked about that, the press actually asked about that, the response was something like, why would we tell people we're going to raise taxes? Especially before the election. We wouldn't win, because people don't like raising taxes. So we've announced that, you know, we're gonna help business out by reducing the small business tax to 0 and slowly bringing it back up to 2%. And that money will go back into the economy, and it'll stimulate growth in our province. And I want to talk about one of the major projects that we've announced. Excuse me, I need another drink. Little thirsty, little dry. I always find it dry in here. So we're going to talk about that canal project that we're going to build. We're going to start on the west side of the province and finish what the NDP started, but we're going to do it right this time. And, well, the NDP started it and then shut it down. And then we're going to build another canal from Diefenbaker to Buffalo Pound to supply water for irrigation projects and stuff like that. And the billions of dollars that it's going to bring into our province. And you can compare that part of our province to the southern part of Alberta, where they've got canals running everywhere, and they've got all the cattle processing, they've got McCain's out there, they've got all these large companies out there. The difference between out there and around where they're going to be able to do it now is we have some of the best topsoil in Canada, some of the best in the world. Now, I'm not a farmer, never professed to be a farmer. Like, Grandpa lived on a farm, but because he's Métis, he couldn't own the land. So, but he always had cattle, horses, pigs, chickens, just keeping the family going. So when you take a look at all that, and there's so much in here that's good, but when you take a look at that, and then we're expanding the airport in Moose Jaw. So one of the things that, and we help them out with that, it's actually all three levels of government. So I want to thank the federal government for finally stepping up and approving that project. That was good. And when McCain's comes out to check out where they're going to build their next plant, or whoever it needs to be, one of the first things they check out is the length of the runway. And the fact that Moose Jaw had a shorter runway than Swift Current, Weyburn, Estevan was kind of sad. But with the work of that board, led by Greg Simpson, it's coming to fruition. So actually the base should be able to land their aircraft there as well. Not the jets, not yet, not until they go on to phase 2. So, you know, there is that. I think somebody on that side, I forget which one, made fun of it with build it and they shall come. Well, that's true. Because if it's not built, why would they come? If it's nothing there, why would they show up? So build it and they will come. We're going to make life more affordable. You know, this is one of the things, compare and contrast, we always do during election time, and occasionally I do when I'm speaking. You take a look at the population growth since we've been in power. 170,000. Now, if you listen to the member from Athabasca in his speeches, that all started under the NDP. But the problem is the NDP took it under 1 million people. So, you know, the joke when I was growing up was, last person here, shut off the lights. You know, that's pretty sad. We couldn't keep a university graduate in the province. It's like, get a degree, go to Alberta. If you didn't work at a Crown Corporation, I remember my grade 12 sitting there with the guidance counselor, and I grew up in the oil field country with mining and power plants there. And my teacher told me, my guidance counselor told me, you need to take algebra, geotrig, and physics, the 3 easy ones because they're math, and an English. The reason you need to take those 3 classes is so you can get a good government job. I've worked for 2 different Crown corporations underneath both governments, and we did a much better job, I would say, when I was still at SaskTel than the opposition ever did, under both. And I've spoke about this before in other speeches. So, again, I want to go back to, what do you guys see when you do this? Is it blank pages? Because you take a look at this, we have hope for the province of Saskatchewan. We also have the responsibility for keeping the people of our province safe. So we do that by, you know, what did your mom used to tell you? Just wash your hands. Maybe don't stick your finger up your nose, or your eye or your mouth. wash your hands, and now we ask people to put on a mask. You know what? I'm not a doctor, not at all. I'm certainly not a scientist. I'm just a regular guy that's got a really cool job now working for the people of Moose Jaw, Waccamaw. And I look around at the rest of my colleagues here, and it's absolutely amazing when I have them in the sidebar, even yourself. Even the member from Regina, the guy in the front row, I can't say his name. I mean, you know who you are. Even when we have our side conversations. Yeah, Regina Rosemont. He's not a bad guy. However, he must be doing a pretty good job for his folks, because I think this is his 4th or 5th time back. I know he's like me, he had a lot more hair when he started, so same as me. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, making life more affordable, and the last one I want to talk about, because before COVID, I would go have coffee with all my seniors' towers at least twice a year, if not 3 times a year, just not to politic, to get to know them, because I didn't grow up in Moose Jaw, I grew up down in Espan, and get to know them, listen to what they have to say. You know, that it's the collective of the province that is smarter than the 61 of us put together. We just happen to be their voice. So if you don't talk to those folks all the time, you don't know where they are, what they're thinking about, what they care about. So you go listen to them, you have coffee. Because it's not election time, I always take them baking from the Maple Leaf Bakery, because it's the best bakery in Moose Jaw, and it just happens to be right around the corner from my office, so there's a reason for that. And it is, I'm still dumbfounded at the negativity. But I'm proud of the positivity coming from our side, from the people I work with, our new members, with the fantastic speeches that I've heard from their side. And it's, I don't know, I don't feel sorry for you guys, but I kind of feel sad that anybody living in that negative of a world just bothers me. So we're going to introduce some regulations out there, the amendments to the Residential Tenancy Act for those that have been assaulted can get out. Interpersonal violence, yeah, you need to be able to do that. Human trafficking is a scourge, so we're gonna introduce legislation for that. With the Protection from Human Trafficking Act, you know, this province has such a bright future, and when you read the historical books about the early politicians in our province, our first premier, he envisioned this province to be the 2nd most populous province in Canada. And then we had a couple of world wars, and then we had the CCF, and it started there, and then the NDP got in. And Mr. Speaker, it took them a long time to, you know, grind our province down. However, since we've been in power and since '07, we've done a pretty good job of helping the people of Saskatchewan. We didn't do it as government. The people of Saskatchewan did it. They're the ones that made this the best place to live, the best place to raise your family, the best place to raise your grandkids. You know, nobody gives luggage away anymore, and I see I've gone over my time by a little bit, so I tend to do that sometimes. So I'll wrap it up with this. I want to extend an invitation to you folks on the other side through the speaker to actually believe in the people of our province. It is our job to help them. It is our job to help them get to where they want to be, Mr. Speaker. So, the member from Kindersley did a fantastic job moving the motion. The member from Riversdale did a fantastic job seconding it. So I will not be supporting the opposition amendment, and I will be supporting the motion, Mr. Speaker. Hear, hear. Hear, hear.